We're very lucky that all the children, my son included, had the presence of mind to react appropriately, and they basically ran right next to the guy out the door. And
they ran past the gunman.
They ran past the guy. He's still standing in the door, and they ran past him.
Here in Newtown, Connecticut, you're about to hear amazing, amazing stories of survival, heartbreaking stories of sacrifice, and answers that only lead to more questions. I'm Wolf Blitzer. Our viewers here in the United States and around the world. Here's what we know right now about this dramatic situation, the massacre that claimed the lives of 20 children and 6 adults at the Sandy Hook Elementary School. Authorities have just released the full list of the victims' names. 12 girls and 8 boys. They were shot and killed. All were either 6 or 7 years old. We're told they were first graders. All 6 of the adults killed at the school were women. Just minutes ago, a medical examiner told reporters all of the victims died of gunshots, and everybody was hit more than once. 3 guns were found at the scene, but the medical examiner says all of the wounds he knows of were caused by what he calls the long weapon. That would be the modified semi-automatic rifle. That's the civilian version of the military's M16. CNN's national correspondent Susan Candiati is working her sources. Susan, we're standing by here from the governor of Connecticut, Dan Malloy, but update our viewers on what you're learning.
Well, today we are learning more from authorities about that they are picking up more evidence both at the crime scene, as well as at the home that the shooter shared with his mother. And they are saying that it is beginning to explain why this happened. Now, they're not revealing exactly what that information is. However, an official with the ATF is telling us that, in fact, more weapons were found at the mother's home. Now, they are doing complete traces on those weapons. They are not saying that they are directly related to the shooting, but it is providing more of a picture about how everything happened. We have, however, learned from our sources about the 3 additional weapons that were found at the home, appear to be found there, and they are all rifles. These are in addition to the 3 weapons that we've already told you about in the last couple of days. 2 handguns, a Glock and a Sig Sauer, as well as that semi-automatic known as a Bushmaster. Now, authorities tell us, our sources tell us, that those 3 weapons were in fact found next to the shooter's body at the school. One was not in one of the vehicles outside, but all 3 were with him. They also do know which one he used to kill himself, according to our sources, but they're not ready to reveal that yet because they consider it an important part of the investigation. Also, at a news conference today, the medical examiner explained how vicious the attacks were, that the victims were shot at close range. Wolf?
Susan, I'm going to interrupt because the governor is speaking right now, Dan Malloy, the governor of Connecticut.
Lost their lives. All of Connecticut's people, indeed the people of the world, weep for the immeasurable losses suffered by the families and loved ones of these victims. Though we could all try, when something as senseless as this occurs, there's precious little anyone can say to the families that will lessen the horror and the sense of loss they feel. We could say we feel their pain, but the truth is we can't. When tragedies like this take place, people often look for answers, an explanation of how this could have happened. But the sad truth is there are no answers, no good ones anyway. We have all seen tragedies like this play out in other states and in other countries. Each time we have wondered how something so horrific could occur, and we have thanked God that it didn't happen here in our Connecticut. But now, Sadly, it has. And so what can we do? As was no doubt the case last night, we can hug someone we love a little tighter. As has been happening since yesterday, we can show and share with each other the grief we feel for the children and adults who were killed and for their families and their loved ones. We can speak about what's really important and what can wait for another day. There will be time soon for a discussion of public policy issues surrounding yesterday's events. But what's important right now is love, courage, and compassion. Love as it has poured in from around the world. Courage as it was demonstrated by the teachers and other adults in the school building whose actions no doubt saved lives. Courage on display as it always is by our first responders. Compassion as shown by people from around Connecticut who've arrived in Newtown wanting only to help. Too often we focus on what divides us as a people instead of what binds us as human beings. What we saw yesterday were those bonds, that sense of community. In the coming days, we will rely on that which we have been taught and that which we inherently believe, that we have faith for a reason, and that faith is God's gift to us all. Those educators and those innocent little boys and girls were taken from their families far too soon. Let us all hope and pray those children are now in a place where that innocence will forever be protected. May God bless you, and may God bless those 27 people. May God bless their families and friends. And may the pain their loved ones feel be someday absorbed by the love of all mankind.
The governor of Connecticut, Dan Malloy, speaking to all the people of Connecticut, indeed the entire country, about this horrendous tragedy here in Newtown, Connecticut. Tragedy now that is beginning, the enormity of this tragedy only beginning to be felt with the release of the names of all of the victims, 23 victims, 6 adults, 20 children. The names have now been released. We're also learning more about the family of the shooter, Adam Lanza. CNN's Ali Velshi has been talking to neighbors, people who knew this 20-year-old. He's joining us now. Ali, what are you hearing?
Well, more questions come out every time we try and find more information out. You can't see the house. It's behind me, behind that police car that you see. That's cordoned off. It is still a crime scene. Police say they've actually found it quite fruitful what they've learned in here. What we know about Nancy Lanza is that she lived alone with Adam Lanza. The family lived in this house from about 1998. The whole family. This was Nancy Lanza, her husband Peter Lanza, the son Ryan, who's 24 years old, and Adam, who was 20 years old. What happened is Peter Lanza left the house at some point a few years ago when they divorced. He doesn't live here anymore. Ryan Lanza, who's 24 years old, went off to work. He lived in Hoboken, New Jersey. We saw that he was taken in for questioning yesterday. That left Adam and Nancy back here. Nancy Lanza worked in finance in Boston and here in Connecticut for some years, but recently she has left work. We don't know whether she was retiring or whether she was taking a break. She did tell acquaintances that she wanted to take care of Adam. Now, we did speak to one neighbor, Gina McDade, who said she didn't find anything unusual about this particular family.
She was a stay-at-home mom who loved her kids. There's no explanation. There was no funny business going on as far as I know.
They were quiet, seemingly friendly people. I don't think people in this neighborhood really knew them too well.
Were they affluent? Were they struggle? Were they more simple?
I mean, I think they were well off. I can only speculate. I don't know. It's not really my business.
That was Gina McDade's son, JP. Now, I'll tell you the one question that keeps coming up here. This is a very upscale, affluent family. What's the connection to all of the guns? Some police sources are saying that Adam may have had access to 6 guns, 2 of which were used in the shootings. One, which was a semi-automatic rifle, a Bushmaster, which was found in the car, and then 3 other standard rifles. One of them was an Enfield over here. Now, we did speak to a landscaper. in the area who had actually been involved in putting up Christmas decorations, a lot of Christmas decorations around here very recently for Nancy Lanza. Now, he told us that Nancy Lanza had showed him a rifle that she had purchased recently, that she was a gun enthusiast, and she liked taking her kids to target practice. We don't know what that means and where that target practice was. We also have word from the ATF that doesn't seem to be true. So we're just trying to get to the bottom of what role guns had in this family. But for the moment, a lot of these neighbors say they didn't really know them all that well, even though they've lived in this house since 1998. Wolf?
Since 1998, they've lived there, and they were obviously very quiet, these folks. People they weren't very sociable. Is that the impression you're getting?
Yeah, you know, initially I thought it was that they weren't sociable. It's just that they weren't very well known around this area, which is interesting. It's a very quiet area. There are no streetlights on. The only lights you see are from our cameras. It's a quiet area. Both of the sons are said to have enjoyed skateboarding, so I would have figured that meant people would have seen them around here. But we're not actually running into a lot of people who knew them. Now, I'll tell you one thing. These neighbors are being very quiet right now. Many of them were evacuated or they're taken out while that crime scene was being combed, and many of them are in their homes, but their lights are off. We see them looking out every now and then. We don't want to be disturbing people who don't want to talk to us. So we're not getting as much. I mean, maybe they knew more people. Maybe their social circle was outside of the neighborhood. It is just unusual that in a place like this, after having lived here for so long, we don't have a lot of people coming forward and saying, we really knew them. Here's what they were like. So we don't really have a full picture yet. It is unfolding. It is developing. The key thing here is we know that Nancy stopped working recently. We're not quite sure why, and we're trying to get to the bottom of that, Wolf.
Ali Velshi, Ali, thanks very much. We'll stay in close touch with you. There's certainly going to be a lot of attention on the semi-automatic rifle like the one that the medical examiner just said was used to shoot every one of the victims. Our crime and justice correspondent Joe Johns has more on the guns used in the shooting. Joe, tell us what you're learning.
Wolf, the Bushmaster 223 is a well-known semi-automatic rifle used by the Beltway snipers more than a decade ago to wreak havoc here and around the Washington, D.C. area. It looks like a military weapon, certainly formidable, but it has elements that clearly make it a hunting weapon. And now the medical examiner in Connecticut says all the wounds he knows of came from, quote, the long gun, which, according to our understanding, is the Bushmaster, which was confiscated from the shooting scene and apparently caused all the injuries to the victims the medical examiner saw. One of the questions we're asking right now is whether that Bushmaster 223 found on the scene would have been banned either under the old federal assault weapons ban that passed during the Clinton administration and expired during the George W. Bush years. We asked a former top official of the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms about that, and he said it just depends on how the gun was outfitted, and some of these things we don't know yet. Listen.
Under the assault weapon ban, a weapon like the Bushmaster would only have been banned if it had things like a folding stock, extended magazine, more than 10 rounds, I believe, or other than fixed sights, those kind of things. Those would have caused it to have been banned before.
Okay, so he's talking about the old federal ban. Now, Burchard says the state of Connecticut has its own assault weapons ban, but this Bushmaster found at the scene might not have been covered by that either. The Bushmaster rifle certainly can be construed as a sporting rifle to shoot small animals. The weapon Adam Lanza was using basically might have been totally legit under past and present law. Wolf?
And the weapons that were found, that they believe they were all purchased legally, right?
Right. Legally by Nancy Lanza, the mother of Adam Lanza. She, of course, was found dead. So it does appear that those were purchased legally by the mother. Adam Lanza apparently would have been too young. We also do have that report that Adam Lanza tried to purchase a gun at a Dick's Sporting Goods store earlier this week, but was not able to do that, Wolf.
You know, it's hard to believe that this is going on, Joe, as we take a look at this. The big picture, the gun debate certainly will be intensified as a result of what's going on. But Connecticut has among the toughest gun laws in the country, right?
That's right. Connecticut has a very strict gun law there, and that's part of the reason why authorities were able to go back and trace so quickly to find out that at least the 3 weapons we knew about as of yesterday had been purchased by the mother. That would be the Sig Sauer as well as the Glock, along with this Bushmaster. So they were able to figure out pretty quickly, due to Connecticut law, who had purchased these weapons. Nonetheless, this still happened. Of course, that's all part of the weapons debate, as you know, in the United States. And twice now, over the past 24 hours, the president has made reference to some type of common sense laws that the country is going to have to consider in the days ahead.